Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, I will be showing you how to make a basic standard material in 3D Studio Max. The level of this video is for beginners only, and it's mainly targeting my student at Ajman University. So let's get started. As you can see in this very basic scene, I have a couple of spheres and a couple of boxes, and I had a bigger box on the ground with the grass on it. In this video, I'll be just showing how we can create a basic material and what they are just made of. If you don't know how to get the material editor, just hit M on your keyboard, and you're supposed to get the you might get that slate material editor if you have the first time opening 3D Studio Max. Just switch for the mode to go to the old mode, which is the compact material editor, to get this one that have small spheres sit in specific slots. Highly advised that you go to rendering and then rendering setup prior doing any material, and make sure that you actually has the type of rendering engine is set to scanline, because I think it's not the default one in 2019. I'm using 1920 by 1080, and if you want to go for a quicker result, just go smaller rendering setting. And if you don't know what they do, just refer back to my previous rendering lecture. I also added in this scene 3 lights. It's a tri-star lighting system, with one exception that I added. Instead of the normal Omni for the sun, I added a direct target light. Actually, this is not required for the final exam. In the final exam, we just have, as we agreed in the lectures and the class, just the 3 Omnis. I'm just doing this for the sake of change and to show you a different set of doing lighting. Anyway, if you want more information about lighting, go back to the previous video that I posted about lighting. Now, back to our scene. Again, it's very basic thing. So I'm gonna add, I'm gonna go to create, I'm gonna go to sphere. You're supposed to know how to make spheres. It's just a super easy thing. And if you don't know, just again back to the previous lectures and have a look of what we have. So in this sphere, let's go and navigate the very basic material that we have in here. And in this one, I have this one is actually a physical material, and as you can see, I imported this from 2019 to 2022 to 2019, and the default there are physical materials. I don't deal now with this video and the physical materials. That's why I'm asking you to go ahead and use the standard materials. In order to get the standard materials, my friend, just click any slot or any sphere you have and go get material, and from the get material, let's go to standard. You will not see this if you don't activate the scanline rendering engine in the rendering setup. So take the standard, and you can recognize the standard by having 3 different colors for those: ambient and diffuse and specular. Now let's go with the the basic things, that there is no texture, there is no material or whatever, no texture, no bump, and no diffuse, and no nothing. So what I wanted to describe first, that a standard material, actually if we need to change the color, you can go ahead to the diffuse and just click this color icon and go ahead and push the saturation of the color itself from the white or fully saturated from red, and go OK. And you notice that the diffuse will affect the ambient color, and both, because they are both link or clips to each other. And basically diffuse is the color of the object when it's well lit. So if you drag and drop that to the new ball, you will find that this ball has assigned this material. It's super important to write the name of the material. So I'm going to call that red. Let's call red plastic or something. Okay. So if you want, just hit Shift and Q or render, and 3D Studio Max will start rendering, and you'll get this material just pure color. It doesn't have anything. It's just like a matte, non-reflected, like plastic or something, as a type of a material. If you want to make it shiny, so go to the specular level and increase that, And also, if you're under that, it will be the type of a shiny thing where the surface is not really glossiness, like the surface is like, a harsh or a kind of matte reflected material. Not what I'm looking for. If you want to make it like really a billiard ball, or a very glossy element, so increase the glossiness value and then hit Shift and Q again, and then start up to reflect even the light sources available here around you, which is the 3 lights, as you can see in the tri-lighting system that we talk about. So this is a very basic way, which is diffuse with a high specularity and high glossiness, like 60 or 70 with 100, to create a shiny reflected plastic. If you want it to be real reflected, to show not only for the light, not only glossy but reflective only, the reflectiveness here not only for the light source but rather to the environment. First, you have to have an environment, of course, and otherwise you're wasting your time. As you can see, this big sphere, brick reflected sphere, which is crazy, is actually reflecting this ball. So if you don't have this will be kind of reflecting the background and the environment. And I have a picture of a sky, cloudy sky, right, added to the background. That's why I'm kind of see that's on the bottom side. I'm seeing the box and the glass, sorry, the upper part of the reflected elements is actually showing me the sky. One of the most important and yet embarrassing question I always get, that why I don't see any reflection, because you don't have anything in the scene. Most of the student or the beginners doesn't add anything to the scene, and when they add the reflective or the reflection factor, they just don't see anything because everything around them are just tinted black, so there is no clear effect of what the reflectedness is just doing. I'm gonna take reflection, and in the no map in front of it, just click, and I'm gonna write here Raytrace. Too lazy to look for it. And when you add a Raytrace, you think like it's go more whitish. Just hit this check background, and you're gonna see that it's kind of reflecting the background. The main surface, or the main interface, sorry, for the material is actually changed, and now we are inside a map. And as I said in the lectures, all the materials are just like a big container of properties, and some of them are here and some of them are here. So all those are material properties, and you can control them with maps, and the Raytrace is just a type of a map. If you want to go back, because we were inside when we assigned it, if you want to change its properties, so you have to go up here, as if you are in a Windows folder, and inside this folder there is multiple folders and so on. So you have to go up, and you're going to see the material properties again, and 100 is too much. I think 30, 20, depend on the scene. Now we go Shift and Q to render again, and you're going to see that circles start up to show our ugly sky, which is not really, wrapped well, and also to show the grass beneath us. But now the reflectiveness factor is actually working properly for us. Probably you need to decrease that a bit. It's too much on this or in this specific scene, but anyway, I think that will be a good demonstration of how we can get the element to be reflective. So this is the first example. It's very easy. It doesn't have any map added or a texture added to the diffuse. It's just a color. We are controlling how shiny it is, how glossiness it is, what color of the glossiness. That's the fourth one. I think the fifth one is its ability to reflect. If you want to make this glass while we are here, because that's an easy thing and close to the one we are talking about. So if I want to make this glass, let me just drag and drop that. When you drag and drop the element, you're gonna copy it here. Make sure, my dear, that to renaming is super important. I'm gonna change the basic color to blue, drop that in here, and from the opacity just need to add a value, let's say 50%. This is a very basic type of opacity, and the worst, actually there is way much more better advanced technique to do that, but this is the fastest one and the lightest one on our machine. I think that will be doing the job properly. So now we have a transparent glass, and that can actually start to allow us to see what behind And you can use this combination with the when you have a building, or when you have a window or something like you want to add, or a glass door, you want to add that material to it. Again, on a box, probably things will be worse to be, harder to be noticed, because you won't be necessarily seeing everything, as the curve have more chance to reflect more things, because the more chances to have more surface, more normal, so you have the ability to reflect more things. So yes, it might be a painful thing when you do that on a box, expecting to see much things on it. On a sphere, on a curved geometry, reflectiveness is well and easier to be comprehended. Now, that's been said and done. Now let's go ahead and add and create our brick. So go ahead and get material again, and I'm going to take the standard as I said, and this time you can take the material, you can change the maps, or add or assign the map to the material property. I don't need to change the diffuse color. I'm just going to add no, and press on the no map and add map to it. I'm going to add bitmap, and I downloaded this images a couple of minutes ago from the internet, so you can go to the Google and write just brick texture for 3D Studio Max, or tileable. That's even better to get a material that a maps that can be able to be repeated easily. And as you can see, that's been assigned, and I'm gonna call that brick, and let's just just create a box or sphere, I don't know, and we add the material to it. Okay, if it doesn't show immediately, just you have to hit this one, show shaded material on the viewport, and you're going to start seeing it in the shader, in the shading mode, not in the rendering mode. And of course, whatever you see here, you see that's the brick size might not be the one or the thing that you are expecting, especially it's tiled by 1 by 1, so this one is spread on this width, but in the depth, which is obviously longer, almost twice, you can see that the material is being stretched more in that direction. So probably you need to increase that into 2, okay, in order to get the similar effect. So the distances, or the relationship between the U and V, or X and Y, let's say, of the tiles are actually kind of annoying and have to follow the prospect or the aspect ratio of the geometry itself. Well, that might do the job. So if we render, sadly, whenever you add this material, it is kind of, just created it as if it's a wallpaper. It doesn't show much of a carving, or the texture, the 3D of the texture is being less observed. Anyway, so I'm gonna go back, and you can do a quick trick, which is just basically click and drag the diffuse and drop it in front of the bump. Of course, always pick instance. This is not the right thing to be done, because I'm using the same image. I'm gonna go -100 because the joints are white. If the joints are black, just go +100. And by the way, bumps can go from 999 to -999. Now you will probably start noticing that the bump is getting better, and the whitish thing look like, it goes inside, and the joints are more realistic because they are less height, or more protruded into the surface. If we compare it to the bricks are just going up against the basic surface. So this is just an illusion of 3D. So if I double click on that and increase it, don't increase it too much. If you don't have a good VGA, you'll start up that the whitish thing are just going down into the sphere. That's the effect of the bump. And of course, in order to see how fake it is, just have a look at the side. You're going to see there is nothing, and you're going to see more effect when you look in the center or closer to the center of the surface. And if you need a better thing, you have to use different techniques. Maybe one of them is displacement, but that's out of the scope of what we are trying to reach today. So this is a good way of doing that. And another way, if I am allowed to copy this brick, Okay, so let's go. What we should do. Okay, let's go this, I don't know, 2. You should get rid of this colorful JPG or BMP of the brick. Just click on no map and drag and drop. That will cancel it. And go and use Photoshop. If you didn't find a black and white copy of it, just Photoshop and then adjust black and white color and just save it as a JPG. Even the format shouldn't be JPG, by the way, but I'm just simplifying that. Of course, the result here, the tiles should be matching whatever tiles you have, because it's not a copy of it. And this usually provide us with a better bumping techniques when the bump map is actually following black and white patterns. Anyway, I don't want to go too deep in this, and I want to talk more about the ability to use a UVW map, because now I'm assuming that this brick will be added to one box. And if I add this, okay, so let me go back to my box, this one, which I assign it to this. Get back inside the map, go to the brick, and I make it 1 by 1. So you see that it's stretching here, and probably I will copy that box. All right, and trying to get it more like both sides, like 14, okay, or this one, which I should take this one anyway. So you may notice now it's look fine on both X and Y. The reason is, as I said in the beginning, that this object is, you know, like that's one X and one Y, one tile in both U and V. And this dude is not, because the geometry is actually stretch. So now you have the conflict or the need to create another copy of the material for each aspect, which is, or each geometry, which is kind of unhealthy thing. And instead, you can just go ahead and add a UVW map, which is a modifier. UVW map, okay, use box. Now, if I copy this dude and apply it to this one, you see now it's just as if it's been telling the object that it should be, you know, that's the box, and it should be a repetitive part of it without consuming our memory by creating too much, too much material. That's one use. That's one of the most famous use of the, the UVW map. And of course, if you have a sphere, the UVW map should be spherical. If you have a cylinder, the UVW map should be cylindrical. That's a common sense, mate. So let's leave that aside. Now, if I have a box, and then all of us, the architect, love to do that, and we go to the component pro boolean, and we cut that out of this geometry, and if you assign the same thing to it, now it's worked, which is a kind of shocking for me anyway. But in a lots of cases, you might not get that operable or working, and in order to fix the issue, if it's happened, which didn't happen now, that's how frustrating for me. Let's go ahead. You have to add a UVW map, which will fix this immediately. Okay, so if you have the issue that sadly it didn't show here, because of the boolean, usually the case is you're gonna see the object is been, have only the color of the brick, which is here in this case just brown, and you won't see the texture until you add a UVW map to it. So that's the second thing you might face, probably when you have a wall and you cut that wall, especially when you make the windows. That will be giving you the hard time of having this case. Also, also you're gonna face it when you have elements came from 2D things like this one, and when you extrude them. Okay, let's go ahead. Mainly, I also face that when you give those a walls, but I'm too lazy to do that. Usually, also you're not gonna see the thing immediately when you add it, and you have to right-click paste the UVW map that I copied it from here, in order to see it. So lots of cases, whether with Boolean, whether with objects coming from a 2D, extrusion, whether a single line or outlined or double line that making wall or solids, or again, when you want to unify different proportional objects. The UVW map is your friend and one of the most important modifier to deal with the material themselves. So now we spoke about the brick. Wood, concrete might follow the same thing. Grass I have in here is just a JPG added to the diffuse channel, so I'm not going to talk about it. It's super easy. The one that I want to show you is this one. It's kind of useful to make this lots of type of gypsum board rendering or cement rendering effects, where you have the color or the paint plus texture, but the texture is just goes for the bump. It doesn't have this picture of the brick or anything else, and you can see that it is like a rendering effect. This is beautiful because you're gonna need to add to create the geometry. Let's create that box, okay, and then you're gonna get a material, of course, get material again, and you're gonna go to standard, as if you want to add like plastering to it, and add just an orange or yellowish thing, drop it. See, now if you render that, it's just oops, you're gonna see that it's just a box, okay, and with a color on it. So I don't want to add the texture to be seen in the diffuse channel. I want a diffuse channel to be only the color itself. So you go to the bump and add to the bump, add the bitmap, and I'm gonna add this concrete to it. All right, so the concrete will give me the effect that the sphere has been, have this texture or like a curved or distorted face, not clean face. Now if I'm going to go up for that, of course, if you show the map, that's how it looked like if you add it to the diffuse, this picture. It's pure concrete. I don't want, just hit Shift and Q and you're going to understand what I'm trying to reach. It's just the wrong view. Definitely not this one. Try to select and then Shift and Q. And you're going to see that the bump is just showing without the image going to the diffuse, without the concrete picture, but the concrete picture or the concrete texture or the concrete JPG is being used for adding the carving. That's beautiful when you want to add this plastering effect. And of course, if you drag and drop this to the diffuse, you're going to get yourself similar thing what you got in the brick, which is a concrete, and the concrete is carved as we spoke before. So that's, if that's what you want. All right, if you want to get rid of the map, just drag the no map and add to it. And finally, I think that's covered up the most of it, the sky or the background. And there's lots of ways to do that. The easiest one is to go to the rendering, and from the rendering you go to the environment, and from the environment you can click this and you go bitmap, and you just load the a JPG of a sky like this one. And by the way, it is super important bitmap, that's the sky, and it's super important to consider that it might be not repeated enough, or the quality is not enough. Always try to get high quality images if you're gonna use that for the sky. And it's also a good idea to drag and drop this in the material editor. Use it as an instance, of course, so whatever you change here or change here will be interchangeable effect. Make sure that it's on the environment, and make sure it's a tileable or repeatable element. So when I go 2, let's go maybe 2 by 2. I think it should be 2 on the U value only, on the U, not on both. But let me see if it's not going to be seen. See, with the tileable thing, you're going to get better result, and you get less noise. The quality of the background, as I said, is super bad. I just download a quick one from the internet. Try to go or buy textures actually, and now we're going to see the seal line. So you have to change the view, or you can just move that, offset that in the U or in the U or in the V value, and you can just pushing. It's just like a quick, easy way to get rid of the join and design that only for the shot. I know this is a very bad way to add a background. There is lots of way much better ways, like adding big sphere or big cylinders and apply spherical images for the sky with high resolution HDRI images. You can even introduce that and make it affect the color of the sky and the lighting of the sky to be affecting the lighting of the object itself. That's again far away from the topic of today's video, and that might cover up for you guys the information required to start up working with basic materials in 3D Studio Max. And again, when you finish, just go ahead and hit the rendering setup and try to see what is your client requirement against the rendering. Let's say it's this setting. You hit, make sure that you are selecting the view render, and 3D Studio Max will start up rendering the whole thing for you. And when you finish, and I'm talking about that to remind you guys, especially my student at Ajman University, if you want to save, you go here from save, because in the exam we always ask you to save your work. So save, and let's say final shot. Okay, so follow what type of format required, BMP, then PMP, and if I ask you to do JPG, so go ahead with the JPG and save, and hit OK, and by that you will be able to get your work to be transformed from 3D Studio Max rendered images into a JPGs or a BMP that you can send to other people to print it or use it in Photoshop for your presentation. Anyway, thank you very much guys for your listening, and I wish you a very good day. Bye bye.